And we are live with another episode of Comic Talk. It's that show brought to you by the Keeg, where we talk about this week's comic book releases. Normally, these episodes are every Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, that we live stream on Twitch and YouTube. But today we are here on a Saturday because it's a special week and we got a special guest. If you are watching us live, you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show, or maybe you're listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. No matter how you are watching us and or listening to us, thank you. Digest us however you want. Just, like, comment, subscribe, follow, leave a review, do your thing. Let us know you're out there because, we're going to talk comics anyway, whether or not people are here listening. But it's just nice to know that people are out there. We got a special guest. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera. I guess I'm not really a guest. I'm the host, Dimithri Perera. But then we also got a very special guest who we are lucky to schedule time with because... he's a busy man, and he can't always drop by on a Thursday. So we're here on a Saturday to talk about everything that came out for the week of, the first week of April, so to say. Brian, a.k.a. Captain Comic Rex, is here with us. Brian, how's it going,
Hello.
man?
I'm doing great. I'm a 35-year-old dad. I don't have plans on Saturday nights anymore. So Saturday nights are always a great night for me to come out and talk comics.
I'm I'm just a youngster. I'm like
Sure.
I'm Generation Z, as I am, and so this is eating into my vape time. So sorry, old man.
Sure. Yeah. You have a lot of skibbity toilet you could be watching right now.
That exactly. Look, it's on my end. It's all vaping and risen. That's
Yeah,
what I put
no,
my
yeah,
free
yeah, yeah.
time. It's my free time as a Gen Z kid, who for some reason has been reading comics since before he was born.
Yeah, right.
It's like, how does any Gen Z kid who knows Infinite Crisis and 52 and the 4 Supermen that came after Superman died.
Well, okay, you say this though, but I'm a high school teacher for anybody who doesn't have context, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the classes I teach is a class on graphic novels. And one of my students this semester is like big into 90s and 80s DC.
Yeah, retro,
Like
dude.
she's drawn like Booster Gold and like Cassie Sandsmark Wonder Girl on the margins of her handouts. I'm like, this is a character that existed good 15 years before you were born.
There is a forgotten generation of hero that was supposed to be part of like DC's
Hmm.
bigger move. What was it called? It was called 5G, right?
5G, but even before that, I mean, like this is even like pre New 52. Those characters were
No,
being built
yeah.
up as
But Cassie Sandsmark has been all but forgotten
sure, yeah,
as Wonder Girl.
right. I mean, that's a whole another 3-hour podcast that we could do on me complaining about the forgotten generation of DC
It's the
characters.
forgotten generation because an X-Men has very similar problems. Is
Mhm.
both companies, DC and Marvel. And by the way, anyone out there, if you didn't know, new DC, Marvel, and indie comics like Image and Dark Horse and Boom and whatnot all come out on Wednesdays. And we're talking about it a couple of days later for all the comics that came out this week. But I forget where I was going with that. Oh, we're going to be talking about all sorts of comics today. But right now, DC and Marvel specifically, they keep wanting to introduce new young characters, and then their older characters stay the same age, which then just compacts everything to the point where I don't know how old Connor Hawke is supposed to be. Because the way he is in Damian Wayne's Robin solo series, that age is not the same one that was in Green Arrow like 6 months ago. That
Right,
faked
right.
his death or whatever. Like faked all
Not
of
to
it.
mention, like, how old is Kitty Pryde supposed to be? How old are any of these people supposed to be at this point?
Well, I have my. Do you have
I mean, I think now when you, especially when you read Exceptional X-Men, she's clearly supposed to be in her 20s. But like they'll never, I don't feel like they'll ever say that on paper how old they're supposed to be to kind of like skirt around a lot of those
Here's a question.
issues.
Here's a question for you. Before we get to the comics that we read this week, before we get to our picks of the week, because there was a lot of good comics out this week. Before we get to all that, I want to ask you about Kitty Pryde and everything. Is Kitty the same? Is Kitty the same age as the New Mutants?
I think she's, yeah, no, she would be, or she'd be very close in age to them because when she was introduced, the New Mutants were introduced relatively shortly thereafter,
Right. She was
or at
the
least
only.
shortly
She was
enough
like
that sliding timescale wise, you're like, yeah, they're basically the same age.
well, because when you're a teenager, 2 years is a big difference, but when you're an adult, 2 years isn't that big of a difference. So the
Right.
question is like, she could be like up to 2 years older than the New Mutants, right?
Yeah, the
If
New
not the same age.
Mutants. She first appeared in 1979, and the New Mutants first appeared in 1982. So with the sliding time scale, they're the same age.
Right. But
Like,
the point being about Kitty Pryde is that she was the exception to the X-Men rule. The exception in a way that like she was the kid on the team, so when they created a kids team, she's like the same age. It's kind of like Jubilee being on the X-Men and then they created Generation X.
right. But even when when the New Mutants got brought in, a lot of that, and I've been rereading the Claremont run, so this is like fresh in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those New Mutant crossovers that happen, it's Kitty who's like the central character, and she's like hanging out with that New Mutants crew. So they were really pushing the idea of like her being
The
a
same
part
age.
of that group, and yeah, and being with the core X-Men team as well.
Here's
I feel
also
like
another.
every time I come on this show,
Yeah.
we go on so many tangents.
I mean, it's also when we do a one-on-one show. I mean, I don't want to say we have time to waste, but at the same time, like maybe we shoot the shit a little bit. Here's the thing. I think Karma, uh, Karma is supposed to be the oldest of the New Mutants,
Okay.
age-wise, and then I don't know who the youngest of the New Mutants is. It might be Magic.
No, oh well, yeah, but that's a weird thing where she got like aged up, didn't
Later.
she?
She got aged up post New Mutants, right?
I don't think so. I think that
No.
happens because she first appears in that story where she gets like taken to hell, and then there's like a mini series, and then I think at the end of that mini series is when she got aged up.
Okay.
I
Well,
might be misremembering that, but I think Rain Sinclair, Wolfsbane would be the youngest one,
okay. That's fair.
or
Here's a
at least the way she's portrayed, she often feels like she's the youngest
well,
one.
because she's like stunted, emotionally.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's got. I mean, that's just being raised Catholic, and
Yeah.
I was raised Catholic, so I can say
I wasn't raised Catholic,
that.
but whatever. Um. So here's the question: if Karma's the oldest, is Karma older than Kitty, or is she maybe even the same age?
I would say same age, probably.
Okay. So just because I want to get this out there, because I personally um I have a like I have in my mind like how old some of these characters are, because the character in Marvel that you can chart their ages are Peter Parker, essentially, not exactly, but like their life is the life of the Age of Heroes. Peter Parker and Kitty Pryde, roughly.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, roughly. But
Dick.
even with Peter Parker, especially Marvel's like, don't ever ask us how old he is. Let's not think about it. We don't want to talk about it.
Okay, so I mean, just to get past it, I think that Nightwing, because Nightwing is who I think is the person who can measure DC, because
Right.
Dick started so young, but I don't think Dick started. Um, how old was Dick when he started being Robin? Like,
I don't know, man. I look at some of the ways he's portrayed. I'm like, is this boy 10? Like, he is such a
right.
child.
I don't like. Haven't they said like on some adaptations they're like he was 8 when he started or something?
which is psychotic. Bruce Wayne needs to be in jail.
Yeah.
That's how old Robin is.
So I don't believe in that, but I like the idea, and modern DC has been pushing the idea that he was like 13 because
Yeah, I
like
mean, if you read the Batman and Robin Year One book, he feels like a middle schooler, like old middle schooler, young high schooler.
right. Um so the way I see Dick, he the age of heroes, the modern age of heroes has been like 15 years.
Hmm.
And so if Dick started when he was 13, I'd say he's 28.
This is also, I think, where you and I differ because you know what I love, Dimitri. Hyper time, baby. Don't worry about it. Just whatever happened, happened. And roll with the
And I
punches.
don't like that at all. But here's my do, do you know what I'm most excited for coming out in like a couple months?
I'm trying. Is it a DC thing or what is
Yeah,
it? What is it?
yeah.
Oh, the history of the DC universe. Yes,
Yes.
that's going to be great. That's going to be great.
You know that tickles my fancy just the way I like my fancy being tickled, right?
And it pairs perfectly with the fact that Mark Waid just recently wrote History of the Marvel Universe only a few years back.
Oh, did he? Okay. Mark Wade
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got to check that out. It's all drawn by Javier Rodriguez. It's excellent.
Mark Wade is the historian of comics essentially. Like
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I've heard behind the scenes that writers who have even been writing for a long time, if they have questions, people are like just go to Mark Wade and ask him.
Yeah, no. He is the last of, I think, a kind of dying breed of pre-internet turbo nerds where if you wanted to know something, you just had to memorize it, or you'd have to like get those Who's Who in the DC Universe or Marvel Encyclopedia books and just memorize the hell out of it
I
because you
mean,
had
that's
no
what I
internet.
did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I grew up. I would think I had enough internet that the internet assisted me a lot in my learning about comics, but he was not of that generation. So
I
because of
mean,
that, like you said, he's the expert.
the internet definitely helped, but I had the DK encyclopedias, so
Yes.
that was for me. Um, okay, all right. Well, here's the question for you. What I'm trying to set this up. So no, let's shoot the shit just for like 30 more seconds as I
Okay, can I
get
tell you
some.
my favorite thing about the History of the Marvel Universe book that came out
Yes,
not that long ago? And I want you to read it because it's so crazy, and
yes.
we don't talk about this enough. In the history of the Marvel Universe, they invented a fake Vietnam War in order to explain any Marvel characters who have a origin story that is connected to a war in some way. So could stop having to update the sliding timescale with whatever conflict is currently happening
Uh huh.
with America and some other country. Did you know about this?
I think I may have heard something like
It's
this.
called the Sion Kong War.
Okay, I've heard about this. That is weird.
Yep, it's so weird. It's
Um,
so weird.
I just like the idea that like every 15 years, because I mean we're always at war, so it's not like we're running out of wars here. Like
Yeah, that's a depressing
Frank
thought.
Castle was in Afghanistan. Like, okay,
Yes, you could just do that. I guess they were like, let's not bank on us having to constantly be in a never-ending war, but the way things are going, who
I
even
mean it is
knows?
what it
Who even
is.
knows?
All right. So now that I got this set up, tell me what's your reading list for this week?
All right, here we go in alphabetical order. Speaking from top to bottom, Absolute Green Lantern, bleh, number one. Absolute Superman, number six. Birds of Prey, number 20. The Immortal Thor, number 22. Let This One Be a Devil, number 2. Miles Morales, Spider Man, number 32. Monkey Meat, The Summer Batch, number 2. Poison Ivy, number 32. And Ultimate X Men, number 14.
Awesome. Do you feel that you read enough this week?
I mean, I never feel like I read enough ever of anything. in my life. Do you see all these books behind me? I've never felt like I've read enough of anything. I feel like I did though. I mean, these are the things that I am interested in and most excited to read. Do you feel like there's something that I missed that I should have read in your opinion?
I don't know. Maybe we'll go through it once I
Read me
go
for
through.
filth, Dimitri. Read me for filth. Do it.
No,
Go.
no. I just I think to myself like, oh, we had a couple extra days to read, and I thought like maybe I'd read more than I would normally, but really, I
I
read
think
like
you're so
roughly
accustomed to cramming all of your comics into a 48-hour period that this feels
not
strange
even
to you that you
48
didn't have to.
hours. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty much 24 hours.
Yeah. You're
Um,
you're not accustomed to having this much time to read.
yeah, to the point where I take it for granted. Maybe no, I did read a lot. I did read a lot. I'm gonna be honest. Uh, now that I'm
Go
look,
prove it.
okay, all right. Well, I'll prep images later throughout the
I
show.
wanted to read Resurrection Man Quantum Karma, but I
I
might wait
did.
for the trade on that one.
I
Oh, how was it?
well, I'll tell you later. It's not that part. It's not that part of the show. All right. So I read Absolute Green Lantern 1, Absolute Superman 6, Ultimate X-Men 14, Miles Morales Spider-Man 32, Batgirl 6, Birds of Prey 20, Deadpool 13, JSA 6, Psylocke 6, All New Venom 5, Hyde Street 5 from Image Comics, West Coast Avengers 6, Spider-Boy 18, Helverine number 5, Secret 6 number 2, Resurrection Man Quantum Karma 1. That could be it. That's probably it. Yeah, it looks like that's it.
All right. Sounds good.
I mean, between you and I, we seem to have read a lot.
We read a lot. We read a lot. And I'm proud of us. We did it.
I mean, we did it, Joe. Oh, that makes me so sad.
We didn't. We actually didn't do it. In retrospect,
oh,
we did it.
oh no. Uh, so um, what's your pick of the week? Let's go there.
My pick of the week. Hmm.
You don't have to. Don't feel beholden to your tentative pick of the week. That
No, because I think those three were definitely like three of my favorites of the week. It's just picking which one it is.
okay.
Did you say you read Absolute Green Lantern?
Yeah.
All right, let's start with that one because I'd like to discuss that one. Since we both read it, we can start there.
Mm,
Absolute Green Lantern, a really fun book, a really like good start that I almost feel like is a little undermined by the cover because I
why?
feel like the structure of the book is kind of a fake out where the way it's set up, it most of the time is spent on Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
And it's kind of structured in a way where it's like building towards the reveal of him with his lantern ring. And then the twist is in the Absolute universe, Hal Jordan is not Green Lantern. In fact, he seems to be the Black Hand.
Yes.
And Joe Mullen of this universe is the Green Lantern.
But we already knew that. That's the problem. Like we just didn't
But
know the
that's
Black
what I'm
Hand part.
well, that's what I'm saying is that I almost feel like the cover should have left it a little more vague as to who was going to get Green Lantern powers. So that way, the reveal of like, oh, he doesn't actually have a Green Lantern ring in his pocket. He's got this weird black hand. And then the last page hits harder because you're like, oh, shoot, Joe is Green Lantern in this universe. Or
Well,
is this the original Green Lantern in this universe?
here's a question: can we actually have?
Ask.
And this is going to tie in with another comic that came out this week. Can we actually have actual mysteries in comics anymore? Or do things get leaked? Even if it's just, I mean, just by the way, okay, like, this is just the way the industry works is that comic books need to, like, comic shops need to order in advance.
Right.
And so there are
Right.
things called
Right.
previews, right, that they look at so they know what to order, whether it's in May, what comics are going to come out, they need to order a set amount, right? And so those things end up being leaked. I personally don't go and look at synopses that are available like a couple of months in advance. I don't look at them. So I'm always surprised when people are like, oh yeah, don't you know blah 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 is going to guest star in this issue? I'm like, no, I don't, because I'm trying to stay at least somewhat surprised. But tying in with all new Venom issue number 5 that came out this week. I don't know
As soon as
whether.
you said that comment about spoilers, I was like, he's talking about all new Venom.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk about that just yet, but like, you don't actually think we can have Absolute Green Lantern and not actually
Okay,
like
so I'm currently looking.
they
Yeah, yeah,
have
yeah.
to like show who it is.
I understand that to a point. I'm currently looking at the solicits on League of Comic Geeks. There are only solicits currently up for issue 2 and issue 3 when issue 1 came out. I feel like issue 2, if I were to just look at issue 2 in a vacuum, it's not clear necessarily who is the Green Lantern. It mentions both Hal and Joe. It doesn't specify one of them as a Green Lantern. Issue 3 kind of leads a little bit more into like Joe explicitly being the Green Lantern. I feel like if they had really made an effort though, because to me, I don't feel like with the all new Venom leak, that book was designed with a mystery being kind of the lead point of the comic.
Right.
I feel like they could have advertised this book in a way where the idea of it being a mystery isn't even front and center. You know what I mean? Like they could have put like I'm looking at the cover right now. Maybe the cover is like the lantern insignia, and you see the hands of Hal, John, and Joe all like reaching towards it. You know what I'm saying? Which like still I feel like symbolically represents what happens. And then you have the exact same description that they have, which is without the core, without the ring, without the willpower, what's left is the absolute Green Lantern. Cool. That's vague enough that if I start reading this, I'm like, okay, Hal clearly has the Green Lantern ring in his pocket. And then you get to the diner part, you're like, oh wait, he doesn't have it. And then you get to the last page reveal of, oh wait, Joe has the Green Lantern. What does this mean? What's happened to John Stewart? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think it could have been done. I'm not saying this makes it bad. I'm just saying like I think the impact of the last page and the structure of the book as a whole could have been a lot stronger if they had been a little bit vaguer in the way they had shown the information of this particular book.
I don't know whether mystery sells.
I'm saying mystery in the wrong. I'm not saying it has to be sold as a mystery. I'm saying like deliberately don't reveal everything. You know what I mean? Which they've already, like I said, this solicit is already pretty vague. The solicit, the next 2 issues, already pretty vague.
Yeah.
I think the putting John, Hal, and Joe on the cover, our minds are already thinking about all 3 of them potentially becoming Green Lanterns.
Yeah.
Because that's just how things work. I think they could have been a little bit more creative in what they did and didn't show us in order to make this issue hit a little bit harder.
Okay. I mean, fair. I think there is a way it could have been done, but they clearly did not do it.
Right, right. And this is not a strike against the book, which I thought was like beautifully drawn. I'm really intrigued by what's up with Abin Sur in this universe. Like
Yeah, he looks like Gore.
Yeah, he looks like Gore. It's a very different imagining of what he is. There's a lot of hooks here that I've latched onto that I'm excited to see what the future holds for this book. And I love Al Ewing, one of the best guys going right now. So,
I read this one and I liked it, but also you and I are different comic book fans, right? Like
go on.
We were what show were we talking about? Oh, I think we were talking about Daredevil Born Again on the Daredevil Born Again after show. And
okay.
The way I told everybody was essentially like there are people out there that one bad episode of a show or one slow episode of a show, people will drop the show.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I like to see seasons through. And if I'm going to drop a show, it tends to be in between seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But because there are people out there that any slow episode they could drop a show, I feel like Disney Plus puts 2 episodes out. And they've done it not just for Daredevil, they did it for Andor, they did it for whatever. Because not only does the first episode have to hook, but subsequent episodes, because it's on a weekly schedule, not a binge schedule, they have to, make sure that you don't just stop watching the show because you think like now it's just going to be slower. With comic books, you and I are going to read more than one issue, but I I know that like if there was a slower issue, that some people are just not gonna come back to it.
Sure, sure. Do you feel like this is an example of a slower issue that people wouldn't come back to potentially?
I think that if they didn't show certain things,
Hmm.
that yeah, like if they kept the mystery on too long, or
Right,
if they
right.
did it a certain way that was almost just like teasing you out to buy 3 issues to figure it out, I think some people just give up on it. Now, I also think that the Green Lantern fan base has their favorite lanterns.
Sure.
Everybody has their favorite. So, really quick, do you have a number one?
I mean, probably John Stewart or Kyle Rayner.
Yeah,
You
same
know,
here.
Kyle Rayner being a kid in the '90s, and then John Stewart being a kid who loved the Justice League Unlimited cartoon.
Yeah, that's.
Although Joe Mullen is definitely like rocketing up there. She
I mean,
rocks.
Joe is one of the best new Green Lanterns
Yeah,
that's been
with just the
introduced.
sickest costume in the last like 5 to 10 years of superhero comics, probably.
I don't like I don't like her glasses, but that's just
Get
me.
out of here! Get out of here! Get out of my sight!
I I don't like the pointy ones. Give her goggles or something. Like, you know,
No, they're sick. They're anime ass glasses. I love
they
them.
are anime ass glasses. They look like Squirtle Squad. It's like
They do look like the Turtle
the
Squad.
lead Squirtle from
I
Squirtle
was
Squad.
literally just thinking the same thing, but I couldn't remember what their official name was.
Yeah. So you know, I also think though that if they teased who the Lantern was gonna be, that most people are gonna be disappointed
Mhm.
because most people don't love it regardless.
Right.
Like for me, I think the weakest would have been Hal because Hal is my least favorite.
And it's the
He
most obvious.
he used to be my most favorite. Now he's my least favorite. Um, but I think that some people automatically hate this book because it isn't Hal. Because there
Are
are
those the
people.
freaks who back in the '90s founded Heat?
What'd you say?
Are those the freaks from back in the '90s who founded Heat? Do you guys know
He-
about Heat?
no, what is this? What are you talking?
Okay, so in the '90s, there was an organization, Hal's Emerald Advancement Team, or Heat, and they were butthurt Hal Jordan fans who were mad about Kyle Rayner
Oh,
being Green Lantern. I'm looking at a 1990s looking webpage right now. Wow, this is incredible. I'm going to send this to you. This must be still from the 90s when they first made this website. But they were really upset about Hal Jordan being turned into Parallax and then the Spectre and
yeah.
being replaced by Kyle Rayner.
Which I
Yeah,
get, I get, but also Hal is just kind of boring. So I'm sorry, but like, but
yeah,
I'm lucky, or at least I'm saying it from a perspective of like, yeah, I grew up in the '90s. I mean, I grew up in the 2010s, and I'm just, I'm Gen Z, and you are a millennial. But no, like '90s comics were my jam, and so Kyle Rayner is my my Green
yeah.
Lantern. Um, anyway, my point being is, here before we move on to another thing, people are already review bombing this issue, and
If you're listening to audio right now, I'm like trying not to fall out of my chair because I'm so
so
fed up with all these people and their behavior.
and here's the thing. So on like League of Comic Geeks,
I
oh
haven't looked at these
nope,
reviews.
I think they were review bombing it at first, but it's not too bad right now.
I was gonna say it was pretty good when I was looking at it a minute ago.
But okay, they originally review bombed it. That's what it
There's
is.
a lot of ratings on it, so I think that's very possible. This is like a crazy amount of ratings. There's over 1,000. I don't think I've ever seen a comic get that many on this website.
1,000 as of right now, 1,399 reviews, and it has 4 stars out of 5, which is not bad. Now, if we take a look at All New Venom number 5, and that was a big talked about issue. It only has 284 ratings
Right.
with a 3.6. So, which makes me like, oh, okay, absolute. No, it might be an absolute title thing, but still, Absolute Superman number 6 has a 4.5 star rating with 1,092. So
Wow. All
there's
right.
still
This books are selling
you know,
well.
300 or so more reviews on this Green Lantern. But I think they review bombed it at first. And so
Mm.
here's a question before we move on. Now we have 6 absolute series from DC Comics.
Hmm.
And judging by, let's just say, issue 1 alone, we can
Hmm.
only judge issue 1. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Flash, Green Lantern. Which one is the weakest first issue? I have my pick.
I mean, it, I think all six of those are really good books. To be clear, I do think it's probably a tie between Flash and Green Lantern.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's partly because I feel like with the other ones, they do a really good job of clearly establishing the premise, supporting cast, like
The
a
tone.
mission statement for the book, the tone. And these two are the other two, Flash and GL, I think are very good, like, again, get your hooks in you and make you want to see what's going to happen next. But I don't feel as like I got a full meal like I got with the other ones.
Yeah.
I got a
Yeah.
good appetizer in these two. The other four, I got a good full meal out of it.
Yeah. Here's the thing. So like when people talk about comic books are not a genre, they're a medium, right?
Mm-hmm.
And individual series also can flip flop between genres, right? You can
Right.
have a series like Miles Morales Spider-Man where at the very basic level he's a street level hero, but right now there's the God War storyline where it's fantasy and Greek mythology, right? It's Greek mythology,
Right,
Norse
right.
mythology, whatever, where a street level hero is put into a different genre now. And that's kind of the cool thing about comic books. X-Men comics have time travel, clones, multiverse,
Yeah.
but then they have like actual like racial bigotry, and then they have like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
then they have like robots and like artificial intelligence and like whatever.
It's every genre at once. That's what I always say
Right.
about superhero comics. It's every genre at once.
I feel that Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Martian Manhunter, even if they're going to switch genres later, all these books specify a tone, and the tone of a
Yes.
book stays consistent as
Yeah.
long as most of the, like a writer's run goes, it tends to be the
Hmm.
same tone for that writer.
Right.
Um, the Flash and Green Lantern seem more like they lack tone and
Hmm.
thus lack a direction.
Right. Or it's not as cleanly established as it could be.
Right. And so we know the premise when it comes to plot, but what
Right.
about the comic when it comes to tone? We
Right.
don't really get it, you know?
Right. Right. No, I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
So it is what it is. I think that like I love all these, but I think that if Absolute Green Lantern and Absolute Flash were the first ones to come out, people would have eaten it up.
No, for sure. For
You know?
sure. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I just want to say too, because I wasn't here, I guess last week before that, Absolute Martian Manhunter. Holy crap! What a good comic!
Of course, you would say that. I can
What?
guess. I
It
can
rules
guess
so much.
at this point. I can guess which comics
How dare you?
you're going gaga over. The Martian Manager seems like your type of thing. So, all right. So, Absolute Green Lantern #1 was your pick. I'm gonna say overall, I'm gonna say that DC had a better week this week than Marvel, and I'm not pitting them against each other. You can be fans of everything. I'm just saying like how many comics I enjoyed from DC versus Marvel, and I read them both. I read a lot. We went over our lists. I just enjoyed more DC comics this week.
Hmm.
That being said, I like to throw spotlight equally around. But if I'm gonna be completely honest, Birds of Prey 20 was probably my favorite comic this week.
Good
Um,
book. Good comic.
I mean, I also loved Absolute Superman 6. So like, it's very hard, but I want to show love to Birds of Prey 20. Did you read this one?
Oh yeah. This book is a hoot month after month. Uh,
I yeah.
yeah,
I
share
have
your thoughts, and then I'll
questions.
talk about the part that made me pop.
I had question. Oh, there were some things in this. There, the art first of all, really good. Who is the artist on this?
The
Because
artist of this is, I have it in front of me. Let me see if I can find the credits
it's
page.
Sammy Basri.
Yes.
So Sammy Basri has been doing this, I think, for the last however many issues. Not since the beginning, but
I don't think they have. I think this is their first issue. Am I wrong?
oh, what
Because I
else
think
was Sammy
the
Basri on then?
yeah,
Because
because
the
the
main,
previous arc was Juan Cabal,
you're right.
and
No, no, no. Sammy Basri did issue 17.
oh, okay, okay,
Sammy Basri did issue 16, 15,
okay. So
14.
they were on the arc before this, the two arcs
Yeah.
back
I
then.
think they were on
Okay,
14 through 17, and we're here on 20. So they,
okay,
you
maybe
know.
that's why I forgot.
So I was like, the name sounds familiar. I know Sammy Basri. But anyway, the art is great. The team dynamic, very good. Kelly Thompson writing a very wonderful team. I love team books. I'm just a big fan of team books because I like interplay between characters, right? Character moments
Hmm.
are huge for me. I like Barda and her relationship to Batgirl. I like the way that Oracle's leadership and Barbara's leader or Oracle and Black Canary's leadership are a little bit different, but like they're both clearly the leaders of the groups. Um, there's a shot that Sammy Basri draws that I'm like, oh, what is my taste in women? This team. This whole team. What is my singular taste in women? Birds of Prey.
Oh my god, that
Um,
is very
and I
funny.
mean, it's just how it works. I liked it. I will say the biggest crazy moment to me was the appearance of Ink.
Yeah, buddy. The Batman Beyond theme song start blasting in your head? Because that's how I felt. That was
I
nuts.
I had to do a double take. I had to be like, is this another similar sort of character? No, it looks to be Ink, and the real question is Ink a character in the modern time? Like,
Or
is
has she
this,
time traveled?
or is there a time travel component due to the upcoming crossover event We Are Yesterday? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, but the We Are Yesterday. I don't have to get too far into this. I feel like the We Are Yesterday. The whole gimmick there is that the version of the Legion of Doom they're seeing in the present is a version of them from the past that has
Yeah,
time traveled.
it is, but why? It's not just them. I mean,
Right.
you if you see from the We Are Yesterday stuff, like I think they're mixing up a lot of time periods.
Okay, interesting. I haven't read enough about it to get a theory about that going.
My theory is it's not multiversal, it's time, and it's just time.
Right. Right.
And the thing about DC Comics, what DC Comics does is they will they will do a thing, and Marvel does this too, where they'll say this Elseworlds title is a possible future, and then they sometimes will capitalize on, oh, this is the point where it differs, and then it
Right.
spreads out. So an alternate timeline becomes its own universe at that point. Marvel does that.
Right.
Like the Days of Future Past universe, like alternate future became its own universe, and that
Right.
continues. And
Right.
so I I think that they're still under the pretense that Batman Beyond is a possible future unless we divert from it.
Right.
So it's not multiversal, it's timeline. So I don't know Ink's story, but it was crazy to see her pop up, and I'm very interested to see what happens because I don't know. I don't know. I wanna see it.
Yeah, no, I thought this was a really fun issue. Every arc of this book is like really fun, and like you were saying, the interplay between the characters is always great. Um, you know me, I'm a New Gods guy, so anytime Big Barda shows up, I'm gonna be here for it. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah.
I like that she's drawn, built like a brick shit house. Jack Kirby is smiling in the afterlife approvingly at her design in this book for sure.
Yeah. Well, what I really like is that the artist, Sammy Basri, gives her armor width, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
when you see her in like the beginning of this issue, she doesn't have very many clothes on. She is still
She's in civilian clothes. She's
she's
dressed like
buff.
her day to day. Yeah,
She's not a square.
right.
But when she puts on
When
her
she puts the
armor,
armor on,
she is a
yeah,
square, right?
yeah,
Because it adds width to her, with her helmet,
Right.
with her shoulder pads, everything adds width. And so, I mean, I like that. I would like to say gone are the days, but I don't know whether it's gone are the days. But the best artists out there are not the ones necessarily spray painting costumes on human
Hmm.
figures. They are
Hmm.
adding some width. They're adding some thickness, some texture to the costume,
Hmm.
and it shows in this. So
No, I
next
agree.
next level
And
stuff.
thinking about a diversity of body types too. I think that really
Yes,
shows in this book too.
yeah. I do want Vixen back on the team. I think that it was cool when Vixen was on it, but
Yeah,
you know, um, also I when this book first came out, I thought to myself, this is less Birds of Prey and more A Force because I
sure.
don't think a character like Barda should be on Birds of Prey. I changed my mind now. I changed my
I
mind. It's not A
I
Force.
was gonna say counter argument. How dare you?
Well, I think there's a difference between Birds of Prey and let's just say an all-female Justice League.
Sure, sure.
I would
Didn't
cast
Gail
them differently.
Simone put? But didn't Gail Simone put Big Barda on the Birds of Prey back in like the 2000s?
Maybe in an arc, like she had certain
You know.
characters that would pop in for an arc.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like the Secret Six crossover arc, Big Barda was there. Because there's
Maybe.
that great bit where she got shot in the leg, and they're like, "Barda, you're bleeding." She's like, "Oh, I didn't notice."
I don't know, but it is what it is. Anyway, Birds of Prey 20, really good.
Good comic.
What else? What else did you read?
Oh boy, so much stuff. What did we? Where did we overlap again? Do you want to talk about something else where we
No,
overlapped?
no, no. Tell me about something I didn't read. Tell me about
Well,
let this one be a devil.
oh well. For those of you who don't know, I'm from the great state of New Jersey, and Let This One Be a Devil is part of the Tiny Onion True Weird imprint, which is a series of different books and miniseries that are based on like true stories is probably not the right word, but on like real folklore and strange goings on. So they had those series that I believe was called Blue Book, which was about various reports of like UFO sightings that have happened throughout American history. And this one I had to pick up because it is a comic book telling of the story of the Jersey Devil,
Okay.
which, for those of you who don't know, according to the folklore, the Jersey Devil is the 13th child of a woman named, with the last name Leeds, who lived near the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, and her 13th child was cursed and came out as a demon looking creature, a goat devil that haunts the Pine Barrens, allegedly to this day. And I thought this was really great. Like, there's kind of two parallel stories going on where you see the Leeds family when the child is born in the 1800s, and then you jump ahead about like 50 years in the early 19, or not 30 years, about 100 years or so into the early 1900s, where you find a young man who has returned to his family home in the Pine Barrens and is kind of like researching the Jersey Devil because of sightings that have popped up around it. And this issue gives a cool little deep dive into some of the history of the family of the Leeds and kind of how they got this reputation within the community for being pro the British aristocracy, and that kind of made them pariahs as the American Revolution heat up more and more, which kind of suggests how this, rumor targeted their family specifically because they were seen as outcasts in the community. It was really interesting. It was great stuff. So if
Is
you're
it?
interested in like folklore, cryptozoology, definitely worth checking out.
I mean, I didn't know that that's what this was about, so I may end up picking it up. Um,
Yeah.
Here's a question though: is it fictionalized or is it about the real world history?
So it's one of those things where it's like the answer is a little bit of both. There are different families that are theorized to have been the Leeds family. There is a specific guy who they kind of follow in this issue
Uh huh.
named Dan. I'm just looking up the exact information here so I can get it correct. Daniel Leeds, who they talk about this in the issue. He published one of the early almanacs, and his almanac was kind of a rival almanac to Benjamin Franklin's almanac that was originally published.
Okay.
But what's also intriguing is that the Leeds family, Daniel Leeds, his almanac was one of the earliest texts to like really go into astrology. So some people kind of like saw that as satanic practice and
Mm,
satanic belief, and that's also part of the reason that this story kind of got pinned onto their family and caused that further ostracization in the community.
yeah,
But there are also like other families with the last name Leeds that historians theorize could have been the Leeds family that the Jersey Devil is referring to.
yeah.
But this particular Leeds family is probably the one that's most historically well known because of their work as publishers and things like that. So we're saying like real with the asterisk of there wasn't actually a demon child that gave birth to the family, but there were real people attached to the folklore of this legend. And this book is kind of exploring and telling that story of who these real people were and how their name kind of grew into local myth.
Is this like a documentary comic?
It is and it isn't because you have the two stories. Like I said, the one story is kind of retelling the folkloric version of the birth of the Jersey Devil and his mother Leeds giving birth to him. And then you have this guy in 1909 who I don't think is a real person who's like investigating the Jersey Devil because he's hearing about sightings in his hometown related to it. So it's kind of this blend of fact and fiction.
Okay, maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah,
I
yeah, it's
thought it was
cool.
going to
It's
go
cool.
the route of like Department of Truth, where it's just a
No,
fictionalized
no.
sort of thing.
Yeah, I think the 1909 story is definitely meant to be fictionalized, but it's using much like you get if you ever read Department of Truth, you get a lot of the chapters that dive deep into the sort of like cryptozoological history of different, urban legends and conspiracy theories. This is essentially doing a similar thing where it's like, okay, we're going to really tell you what this story is and how it came to be.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so who
Um,
I like it a lot.
okay. Um, did you read all new Venom number 5?
I did not, but I have been following all the spoilers closely because I've just been fascinated by the whole thing.
All right, so we touched on it
Let's get
like
into it.
a couple minutes, like 10 minutes ago on this episode. We touched on it, but basically, this the premise of this series, issue number 1. Now, this is issue number 5, but the premise of this series is that somebody new has the Venom symbiote because Eddie Brock has the Carnage symbiote in his
Right.
series, Eddie Brock Carnage, and somebody else has a symbiote in this. And the way they set it up is that the only choices are people who are in the courtroom, and it's sort of this mystery, and a lot of them have blackouts of time, so a couple of the characters can't even trust that they aren't Venom because
Mm-hmm.
they've been blacking out. Now, the characters that have been proposed were Rick Jones, Robbie Robertson, Luke Cage, or Madam Mask. Roughly those four. And before this issue came out, and this was supposed to be a mystery, before this issue came out, news spread on the internet who the person was. Now, the before the news came out, people did think that maybe it could be Paul.
I wanted it to be Paul so bad.
People thought it could be Paul. And then other people were like, well, Paul wasn't in the courtroom. I think I might have said that. I was like, Paul wasn't
Yeah,
in the
I think we were
courtroom.
talking about it. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I don't buy into the Paul thing, though I wouldn't mind if Paul was Venom. And then it came out, and this is spoilers for anyone. I guess fast forward 5 minutes if you don't want to. But like this whole show is spoilers. But it turns out to be Mary Jane. And this is kind of like I was telling
Amazing.
you, can we keep spoilers? Can we keep them as secrets, or
Right.
like is it possible in this day and age?
It is ironic that both of these books are written by the same guy.
Al Ewing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize this was Ewing. Okay. Yeah. Here's my thing about this series. I like this series, and
I hear it's fun.
I don't like Venom and I don't like Carnage, but I'm
Neither
liking
do I.
both series right now.
Uh-huh.
I'm liking Eddie
Who's
Brock
writing
Carnage.
Who's writing the Eddie Brock Carnage book?
Why are you telling me to do homework? Come on.
I'm googling it. You can keep talking.
But I like this, and I don't need the mystery for me to keep reading. But I think that some people might need the mystery in order to keep reading, right?
Yeah.
And do I think it's kind of a cop out putting Mary Jane in the suit? Yeah, she may be the least interesting person, I think, in the suit. Like, other than I didn't want Luke Cage in the suit, and I didn't want Madame Mask in the suit. I could have had Robbie Robertson or Rick Jones.
I would have loved Robbie Robertson. I think that would have been so strange but so funny.
Robbie Robertson is like giving your grandpa the Venom symbiote. Like, why would
I
you?
wanted him to have like Danny Glover and Lethal Weapon kind of vibes where he's just like, I'm too old for this shit. I think
I
that would
think
have been fun.
I think a good writer could have done something really good with Robbie Robertson. I think Rick
Yeah,
Jones would have been a safer choice because he's consistently like
sure.
he's
Falling
the
into being the sidekick of all these characters across the Marvel universe.
he's the Jimmy Olsen, right? Like,
Yeah, sure. Definitely.
but I really think the strongest narrative choice would have been Paul.
It would have been my favorite because it just would have been funny to watch people melt down on the internet about it.
Okay, this is okay. I'm switching. I'm gonna tell you something that happened at I'm gonna tell you something that happened at WonderCon. So funny. Okay, I'm trying to figure out the story. Okay, so I have not. I was gonna post from WonderCon that this happened, and it was
Uh-huh.
because it was so funny, and then I didn't, and then whatever. So this is the first time I'm ever saying it out loud. This is the story. So I'm at WonderCon at a comic booth, and I'm trying to find the comics. Some guy, some let's just say in his 20s, boy/man, walks up to the counter, looks down. There's an amazing Spider-Man cover where Peter Parker and Black Cat are kissing, and then Mary Jane's in the background being like, "Oh my god!" Right? Like it's a
Uh-huh.
classic cover. I'm pretty sure you've seen that cover before.
Okay. Sure.
And the boy/man yells at the cover. Nobody else is. He's not talking to anyone else. He's talking straight to the cover. He goes. I hope you're happy with Paul. And he yells at the comic and then walks away like nothing happened. It was
Oh
that
my
I'm
god.
don't quote me on this. I'm pretty sure he prefaced it with he prefaced it with I that's what you get. I hope you're happy with Paul. Something maybe I'm
Oh
making up that first
my
sentence, but it was
god.
specifically I hope you're happy with Paul. That he yells at the Mary Jane on the cover in the background of this comic.
A cover that very likely predates Paul's
It
existence.
does. And I guess he was channeling his rage because she was shocked, like Mary Jane's shocked that Peter and Black Cat are in
Oh
full
my
embrace.
god.
And
Oh my
he yells at it, not to anyone. He was walking alone. He was alone. And he wasn't yelling at the person manning the booth. He was yelling.
the funniest thing about this is if that was a joke, it's really funny. But I can't tell anymore when these people are kidding or not kidding when they're mad about Paul.
I don't think. I don't think it was a joke. I think he was speaking to the character.
I love this so much. Oh, what a dumb hobby this is. Oh my god. Oh, that's terrific. That really made my night. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, point being is people are upset about Paul. I'm not. I'm just like, this is comics. It's going to cycle around, and these characters, it's like a soap opera. Like, these characters are going to break
right,
up. They're going to date other
right.
people.
But that's also low key why I wanted him to become Venom because then we can't just forget Paul existed. Because if he becomes Venom, like we have to acknowledge the fact every so often that Paul was Venom.
Well, yes and no. I mean, there is that character. There is a character who had Venom right before Matt Gargan had Venom. He was like a mob boss or something. Do
Oh,
you
weird.
remember?
Okay,
Do you remember that?
vaguely,
Right before Matt
vaguely.
Gargan, some mob boss wears Venom, and then Venom
I
goes
feel
to
like
Matt
I read
Gargan.
something where he came up, and I was like, "Who's this?" And then I was
Yeah.
like, "Whatever."
Eh. So
What
it
if
is what it is.
what if the new thing? What if I start a new thing where I'm mad that Venom is cucking Peter Parker? What if that becomes the new thing? What if we make Venom Paul? Can we do that?
I think somebody posted a picture online of a wedding between Mary Jane and Venom. Anyway,
uh,
I like this series. Also, the art is amazing.
Yeah, it's who is it? Is it Ivan Coelho?
I don't know. But I also looked up Eddie Brock Carnage is written by Charles Soule. And Charles
I
Soule,
saw that too. Yeah, pretty good.
Charles Soule does good
Pretty good.
work.
A steady hand.
Yeah.
Steady hand. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think it might be. I don't remember. Whoever is the artist though is so funny because I'm sorry I keep talking about Paul. I'm just so oh Carlos Gomez. That's who it is. Carlos Gomez. He's a great Instagram follow because he's always like low key messing with people about Paul. Like he's the one who he posted just like a regular page that had Paul on it, and his comments were just filled with people being like, "Why did you put Paul in this comic?" And I'm like, "Brother, he's the artist. Everybody chill out." So then he posted the image of Dylan Brock dunking on Paul, which was legitimately a funny scene.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, "That's hilarious that you dunked on Paul." And then when the Mary Jane leak happened, I think on April Fool's Day, he posted a drawing of the page that reveals it, but he replaced Mary Jane with Paul. It was really great. He's a good follow. He's a good sport about it.
I think the only way to get around spoilers is to make a fake spoiler.
Did it? Now I'm curious. Where was the source of the leak? Because I remember seeing a Marvel Instagram post that day revealing it, like the day of quote unquote the day of the leak, and then it got deleted like 10 minutes later. And I was like, did they accidentally release this too early?
Maybe, but let me.
Was the leak coming from inside the house?
I'm looking through Marvel's.
I feel like it was probably their Bleeding Cool that would have done it.
It's probably Marvel Comics also their Instagram.
Yeah, it was the Marvel Comics Instagram. But yeah, I thought that was. I was just like, oh, who on earth did that? Anyway, um,
I don't
yeah,
know.
no, I just feel like the Mary Jane thing is so strange to me because I feel like Al Ewing's a good enough writer that I'm like, you know what, he knows his stuff. I feel like I haven't read his Venom run, and I kind of want to. I've heard good things about it, but I want to kind of go back to the start of it and read the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, there's other people who have said this, and I reflected on this a lot. Are we at this weird point where like superhero comics are so focused just on the superhero part that we can't just have normal people in a superhero comic anymore? Like we keep trying to make Mary Jane, and I love Mary Jane. She's a great character, but I feel like we keep trying to push her into this space where she's also a superhero, and I'm like, I don't know if this is where this character needs to be.
Well,
But I also feel like modern superhero comics aren't interested as much in just telling the ordinary life story of the characters in a way that they used to be. You know?
I'm gonna tie this in with actually something that I would have talked about on a different thing with you, but we didn't do it. But
Oh, let's do it.
before I get to that, do you feel the same way about Superwoman Lois Lane right now in
I
Superman
have not been
comics?
reading that book. I have not been reading
Oh,
that book.
I mean I love it, but I also know it's going to be temporary. But just like
Right.
that's also
I
the
would
thing.
so much rather read a story where it's just about Lois Lane being a reporter. You know, like Greg Rucka did a great 12-issue series a couple years ago that was just like Lois Lane doing investigative reporter stuff.
Yeah, but also that's it's not meant for everybody as a reader,
Yeah.
and not every writer can do that. But
Yeah.
basically, if you want to know the premise of what's going on with Lois Lane in Superman,
Yeah, hit me.
is that because of absolute power, a couple of there's still ramifications from absolute power where some people haven't gotten their powers back or they've been mixed up,
Right.
right? So like fire and
Right.
ice,
Martian
their
Manhunter
powers
deal
are
with that.
switched. Gorilla Grodd gets Martian Manhunter's powers, and Lois, guess who Lois's powers are?
Power Girls. I don't know who's.
General Zod.
Oh, that's crazy.
And it's cool. It's super cool because like General Zod
Okay,
is
but did
depowered.
General Zod get her writing ability and now he's up for a Pulitzer?
I think it'd be funny if he got her love of Superman and he's just like, oh man.
Enemies
I,
to lovers.
I
I
gotta
love
head
that.
I gotta head to Earth right now and tell him how I feel.
I finally understand where all this misplaced animosity is coming from.
He's like, oh. Can you fly around with me in your arms? you know? So Zod doesn't have powers and he's heading towards Earth because he's like, I need my powers back. And he's still evil Zod. And so I like the idea of exploring what would Zod be like without powers. And I like the
uh,
idea that essentially her power set has been stolen from Zod. So like
right.
I don't know. I really like this story. Um,
Interesting.
Mary Jane could be a good story being Venom. Well, only time can tell. Um,
I'm already laughing at the sentence Mary Jane is Venom.
yeah.
It's just so crazy that I'm like, sure, why not? What the heck?
Also, if she's gonna be Venom, I mean, maybe I would have liked it that she looks like her own take on Venom.
Yeah.
You like her being a big old buff man, Venom?
Kind of different. I also think going back to your comment earlier about like costumes not being drawn, like you just painted on nude figures.
Yeah.
I feel like the obvious route is it's a sexy lady Venom, ba ba boom. And I like the idea that she's like, well, if Eddie Brock gets to look yoked, I want to look yoked too.
Well, yes, but also, I'm not saying that she should be like Venom, but with boobies. I'm saying, I'm saying, like, you ever think to yourself, like, what would your Venom be like, and what would your color scheme be like?
I'm gonna be very frank with you, no, because I hate Venom.
Okay. Well,
I feel that
well,
line
what
of
about Green
questioning.
Lantern? Your like Green Lantern uniform would be something specific to your taste, right?
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah.
So
Maybe she's just like, I want to look like that Eddie Brock guy, but gold.
yeah, maybe. I never knew that Mary Jane likes the color gold though, so that's also a thing. But it is what
Yeah.
it is. We got to move
She hit the
on.
jackpot.
Yeah,
Coins. I don't know.
it is what it is. I'm trying to actually. We didn't do a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man episode. Here's
Yeah. What were you going to say about that?
here's my one problem. One of my one problems, right, is all the supporting cast are heroes in their own right. Like
Sure.
they've ditched.
Sure.
I think a good solo superhero series has a strong supporting cast because a good team series, the cast is the team. But with a character like Superman, a character like Spider-Man, you need a good supporting cast. A character like Batman needs a good supporting cast. I think that like Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man had Harry, but everybody else is like a hero. Like Pearl is a hero in the comics.
Nico,
Nico's a
Lonnie
hero.
Lincoln.
Yeah, and I don't
Yeah.
know
Yeah. I hadn't
if
really considered that, but you are right. Yeah.
and so a character like Mary Jane getting the powers, it's like Mary Jane should be a strong supporting character in
Right.
a Peter Parker series, but isn't.
Yeah, I think the thing that they've always struggled with is giving Mary Jane. This is gonna sound dumb, but follow me. Like giving Mary Jane a good job that has dramatic stakes. Like I think it's telling that in those Spider-Man PlayStation games, they're like, what if we just made her Lois Lane? What if we just made her a reporter? Because Lois Lane being a reporter is a job where you can put her in dramatic situations that are often parallel to what Superman is doing very easily. And I feel like they've always struggled to give Mary Jane something to do that puts her in as dramatically interesting situations as Peter Parker is in.
What if, and this is my writer brain working, she's not
Mm-hmm.
a journalist? Because I think that like she's not, like she shouldn't be. Like
Mm-hmm.
she didn't go to school for it. That's not what her wants and desires are. Like
You don't have to go to school for being a journalist
I
to become
know,
like a writer, a
but
journalist.
like
I
she's
know.
not.
Right.
But also we have her history as being an actress, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think she had a recent series where like it explored a little bit of that, and that was cool. But I don't know whether that is a long lasting thing. I think it would be cool if you combine the two and make her an entertainment reporter. And an
Sure.
entertainment
Sure.
reporter reporting on superhero stuff.
Oh, I like that a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Like maybe she's a TikToker.
Well, I mean, she could be a
I know,
TikTok.
I'm being facetious, but
Well,
like,
I
yeah,
mean,
that actually is an interesting idea.
look, I think Peter Parker is in it. He's 32 in my mind. She's 32 as well. Whatever. I don't know who's older or
Uh-huh.
younger, but the point being is like she's not a TikToker per se. Well, we I she could have a TikTok, but like she's not this like Gen Z sort of new age, new media sort of thing necessarily.
Right,
But
right.
like, why isn't she on Entertainment Tonight?
Right, right.
You know?
Or doing some kind of like superhero equivalent of TMZ, just maybe a little less scummy.
No, right. She wouldn't be scummy about it, right? Her whole goal
Right.
would be to show humanity in
She's
superheroes.
trying to be the anti Daily Bugle.
Yeah. So I think that could be a good way to do Mary Jane.
Here we
That's
go.
how
Let's
that's how
let's take
I
up
would
this
write
pitch.
her.
But also, she's Venom. you're like trying to sell Marvel on the pitch, and they're like, I don't know. They're like, and also she's Venom. Sold. We did it. Here's $1 million.
I mean, whatever works for them. I'm just saying that like we because superheroes kind of spun out of pulp comics, some of these
Right.
old timey jobs are like the only things that they stick to, and
Like
like
print media.
print media, but also just like, yeah, they're a reporter, yeah, they're a private eye, and it's like,
Right. Right.
oh, okay, I guess there's just a lot more private eyes in comic books than there is in real life. Anyway, that's my spiel. All new Venom, I like it. We'll see what happens. Let's hit what's another one? You're Immortal Thor 22. I'm not reading it, but this is also another book that I just know that you're reading. So,
Buddy, oh my God. The
is it?
structure of this comic
Uh huh.
is crazy. Okay? It opens with Utgard's Loki
Sorry.
talking to the reader. Utgard's Loki? Do you know about the Utgards?
No.
The Utgards this is a real thing from myth, and it's essentially the realm above Asgard. So they're kind of like the old gods that existed before the Norse gods.
Okay.
So Utgard is the realm that they're from, and they're essentially like ancient versions of the myths that we know. So they're kind of like primordial myth.
Oh, or the proto myth, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. So there's
Who's
like an
writing this, by the
Utgard.
way?
My boy Al Ewing. It's the Al Ewing show tonight. Let me tell you, we can
Yeah.
talk.
Okay.
I think we're only talking Al Ewing comics. That's fine with me. I love that guy. So Utgard Loki starts off talking to the reader and talks about how like fate and stories are all about the flip of a coin, right? You decide one way or the other. And Executioner, Thor, and another god who's like the Norse god of speed, he's like a Flash basically, are trapped in this like endless city, right? And in order to convey the idea that they're trapped in this endless city, the Utgard Loki tells you every page you have to flip a coin. And that decides if you move to the next page or go back a page in the story. So at the bottom of every page, I'm holding this up to the camera, there's a little like coin flip. And you can either go back or go
Okay.
forward.
I'm seeing it, but the audience isn't seeing it, but it's okay. Because I'm showing
So,
the covers. But yeah.
but structurally, the way Al Ewing wrote it is that the panel in between the coin flip perfectly fits as a panel to either
Wait,
go
hold it
back a
up.
page, like the way it's written, to work either going back a page or going forward. So
Okay.
let me read you. Can I give you an example of dialogue
Yeah.
here?
Now
Okay.
I'm showing you if you want to show off your comic, but that's up to you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was fully not on camera at all. So, for example, you have this page here where Executioner and Thor are fighting this group of like monsters, and they're in this like MC Escher drawing, like infinite city. All
Okay.
right. It ends with Executioner saying, "But as a crowd, they are formidable, and their reach is hard to escape." You flip a coin. If you go to the next page, the next line is, "Escape will come for now. We have bought time." That's Thor's response. Now I'm going to read it again. As a crowd, they are formidable, and their reach is hard to escape. You go back a page, it says, "I, formidable creatures indeed." That's Thor's next line. So everything is structured in a way where the panel on the bottom of the page corresponds to either the first panel on the previous page or the first panel on the next page.
But is it
And
a
it
time
creates,
loop?
well, that's kind of it. It's not so much that it's a time loop, it's that time is like skipping because they're in this like infinite space that doesn't end. So either so it's like they go forward, then they go backward. They go forward, 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 then backward, backward. Like every time they feel like they're accomplishing something, they're actually being set backwards. And it creates this illusion of like you're trapped in this space and you can't quite orient yourself as to whether or not time is moving forward or backward.
That's weird, but cool.
The book kicks ass. I love Immortal Thor. It's terrific.
How do you do it if you're reading it on Marvel Unlimited?
That's a problem for people reading on our Marvel Unlimited. I don't even know. It would be a challenge because you'd have to like, I don't know, if you're reading it in guided mode, you probably have to go out of guided mode, then choose to go back a page. Well, the way I read it was I kind of like got to that last panel and then I would like read it as if I went back just to see how it worked and then read it going forward.
Right. You're playing
I was
around with
just
it.
blown
Yeah.
away. I was playing around with it. Yeah, I wasn't following the rules as they were supposed to be, but I was just blown away by the structure and the formalism of it. It was really impressive.
Okay. I mean, I hear
Great
good
book.
I hear good things about Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk, and then like he's following up with Immortal Thor, and I mean, good for him. I'm just not sure if I'm interested, but
You should read Immortal Hulk at least. Immortal Hulk's crazy.
maybe Hulk is not my favorite character, so
Sure, sure. How
yeah.
do you feel about like horror movie type stuff?
I don't like horror, but I do read
Okay, so
horror.
maybe
I
don't
read
read
horror
Immortal Hulk.
comics.
Actually,
I read horror comics.
Immortal Hulk is much more like a horror book and like a psychological deep dive into the Hulk than
Yeah.
anything else.
Okay. I hear good things.
Good comic. Good comic. Love it.
I want to talk we gotta wrap things up soon, so we'll do quick reviews of everything else.
Let's do it.
Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 32 has God War Part 1, and it's coming straight out of
Hell yeah.
Pools of Blood, the crossover event. Now, God War, I looked it up. It's like 5 to 7 issues of God War. And it's Hercules and Thor teaming up with Miles Morales versus Ares and Agent Gao and like a couple other people. So, Zip Zephyr.
Zip Zephyr, I love so much that this goofy character that he set up so long ago is now being established as like a legitimate threat.
Did you read this issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been reading this whole run since the beginning, and I love it. It's delightful.
Did you like Pools of Blood?
I thought Pools of Blood was fine. I'm not a Deadpool guy.
I'm not a Deadpool guy either, though I did read Deadpool this week, and I do like this current run. I just thought that the crossover event wasn't necessary.
Yeah, it is what it is.
You know?
The minute Cody Ziegler got put on the Deadpool book, I was like, they're definitely going to do a crossover Spider-Man, and I'm going to have to read it.
Yeah.
But no, I love this idea. I've loved all the like Anansi stuff that they've brought in. You know, I have very mixed feelings about like Spider-Man getting wrapped up in like larger god entity stuff. Like I've never liked the spider totems stuff that was leading into the original Spider-Verse, but I like this idea because Anansi is a spider god, so I like it more explicitly being tied to that idea.
Well, I like the idea that it's not preordained. Like the spider totem isn't something that was destined for any of these characters, but rather something you chose. For example, if tomorrow I chose to dress up like a rat and make that my superhero identity and I was Rat Man, I think that the rat totem would apply to me. You know what I mean? Like you can choose.
You would hope.
No, I mean I would hope, right? But like that's kind of how I view the totem. You are trying to embody the symbolism of this animal.
Right.
That's how the totem works. As opposed to the rat god had me destined to be Rat Man from birth.
Right.
I don't like that, right?
No, I agree with you. I agree. So, especially when it comes to Spider-Man.
Yeah, right. Monkey Meat Summer Batch issue number 2 by Junie Ba. Junie Ba did that Robin miniseries from Black Label that I did like. But that's all I know Junie Ba from.
Junie Ba's, yeah. So Monkey Meat, the best way I can describe it is a satirical anthology that kind of plays in a lot of different genres, but a lot of it is it's a corporate satire that plays with our relationship to stories, especially stories that are owned by mega conglomerations. Like for example, the first issue has a story where like a Batman and Robin analog suddenly decide to sue the company that publishes their stories because they don't like the direction that the stories are going in and the way that they're being handled. So it's very much plays in this space of like what does it mean to love and engage with art when so much of art is almost by necessity in order to exist, forced to be um,
Capitalized.
capitalized, yes, and it needs commerce in order to survive. Um, and Junie Ba is just such an incredible cartoonist. Like his artwork is so unique, um, and there's really nothing else like it. So every issue you get like two stories, and some of them are like recurring characters. Like there is this like uh, guy who is kind of like this henchman for the corporation, the Monkey Meat Corporation, that kind of enforces their will in different places. And his name is Lug. And he goes around in this story and kind of acts as like a Conan the Barbarian type character. Um, and is sort of like becoming self-aware and trying to rebel against the corporation, even though they essentially own him and his life and keep him alive every time he dies in their favor. Yeah, it's just like it's a hard book to really like sum up succinctly because it is an anthology, and every issue you're getting new stories. But if you want just like some beautiful cartooning and some really funny, insightful comics, Monkey Meat, there was a first edition, which I think is collected as the first batch, and then this series is called the Summer Batch. So I would highly recommend checking out the first volume, and if you like it, go out and pick up these issues too.
All right. Cool, cool, cool. Um, Poison Ivy 32. I was reading this amazing series, and then at a certain point I dropped off. Probably around
Mm-hmm.
like issue 20 or so. Real quick thoughts about this, and then we just got to get through everything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's still really great. I kind of can't believe I was sitting down looking at it. I was like, damn, I can't believe a Poison Ivy comic ran 32 issues. Is this 1990? Like, they used to do that all the time. They let these deep cut characters have like 50 to 60 issue runs.
Like
And
Aztec.
yeah, it's like the Ultimate Man or like, the Sword of Azrael would run for like 100 issues. Yeah, it's just been a really great book. I really love the way G. Willow Wilson writes Poison Ivy as a character, kind of still skirting that line between anti-hero and villain, um, and the different like eco horror things that she gets thrown into. It is kind of a nice balance between the sort of like classic Alan Moore sophisticated suspense, as they call it, the Swamp Thing, and just classic super heroics. So Poison Ivy, still a good book. Love it.
The thing I like about this is tying in with what we were talking about from a literary aspect. It knows its tone, and
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sure it could hop genres, but still keep its tone and keep its characters. I was gonna say straight, but there's no pun intended on that. But like, keep its characters like steady on what we know their characters to be, and
Right.
the plots can change, but that this is what this series is.
Right. I agree. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. Um, you read Ultimate X-Men 14?
Boy, I feel like we take for granted the fact that every month we get new Peach Momoko artwork. This issue is a whole battle that takes place in what's it called? What's the name in X Men? The like mind dimension
Astral
that the
Plane.
psychic, the astral plane. Thank you. It's a whole like giant battle in the astral plane between the assembled X Men and this universe's version of the Shadow King.
Yeah.
And it's just like so cool and so beautifully drawn. Uh, Peach Momoko is just on another level, and we should be grateful that we're getting such amazing work for her month after month because every issue is unique and special. So I like this comic a lot. I think it's great.
I didn't read this issue. I read last issue. So I read
Have you
issue.
come around more on it? Because I remember you saying you were not happy about it being, you weren't happy that the team aspect wasn't there. And I feel like the team aspect has grown a lot in the last few issues.
Yeah. So I mean, if we're sticking to our literary dissection of everything, I think this was clear what the tone was. The tone was pretty set, but knowing what the plot was tough. So this one was
Right.
one of those like I need to know this plot instead of telling me one shots of who these like characters are. I have come
Right.
around. I have come around. That being said, I don't know whether this is what I wanted. I think that if they did if it was called, I just came up with this. If it was called Ultimate New Mutants, I would have
Sure. Sure.
digested this way more, way better because honestly, Ultimate Wolverine has his own series, and the Ultimate X-Men are essentially popping up in that. Like the X-Men
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
know, the classic lineups, right?
Right.
So in this, it wasn't giving me what it was sold on. It was Ultimate X-Men. And you could say that
I
maybe
feel
it's
like
my
that's
fault
a
for my expectations, but it's a bit obvious, right? We had
yeah,
Ultimates, we had Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, Ultimate X-Men. This is the one that's not delivering on the title alone. So just change the
yeah.
title.
I think that goes into like cynical branding more than anything else. I think the bean counters at Marvel are probably like Ultimate New Mutants isn't going to sell as well as Ultimate X Men, so they call it Ultimate X Men. But you are right, and I actually hadn't considered that. But I think you're correct. Like tonally, especially when you think of like the Demon Bear arc from the original Mutants, it's very much playing in that horror adjacent superhero space. It's kind of like the Demon Bear arc filtered through like J horror.
Is J-horror Japanese horror? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like The Ring or like The Grudge,
Yeah.
those types of stories. Yeah,
And Peach Momoko's doing a real good job with teaching us a little bit about Japanese lore, right?
yeah,
Like in the
yeah.
back of the books and whatnot. And so that's amazing. And I would never wish for this book not to exist. I just feel like the title promises something that the book does not deliver on.
Sure.
That's my only thing. I do not have a problem with the characters or the fact that it's an all girl team. And I say girl, it's not all women team, it's not all female team, it's all girl team because they're all kids. And like, cool. That part's cool. I just think that it could have been marketed differently.
I think this book's great. And the new issue, speaking of the like Japanese culture thing, the new issue, Peach Momoko makes a playlist uh, that giving a song to each of the characters.
Oh,
So it's very fun.
cool. All right. I think that's all the books you read. I'm gonna go through the
Pretty
rest
much,
of
yeah.
the rest of the books that I read, and feel free to ask questions because I'll tell you, you know. I'd be remiss to not talk about Hyde Street. Hyde Street and Image. So Image Comics, the Ghost Machine imprint. I read Hyde Street. I read Redcoat, and I read Hornsby and Halo. I think
Hmm.
those might be the three that I read. Um, and I didn't read Hornsby and Halo this week, but Hyde Street is continuously one of my favorites. Hyde Street and Redcoat are two books that I have to read when they come out. So Hyde Street issue number 5. Are you familiar with Hyde Street?
I know of these books. Are these all written by Jeff Johns, or are
No,
they written by different people?
Hyde Street, I think is it Tiny? Jeff Johns writes Redcoat, but
Yeah.
I don't think he writes I don't think he writes Hyde Street. Oh no, he does. He writes Hyde Street. Who writes Hornsby and Halo? I don't know. Anyway, the point being is like Tynion writes something.
Does he write a book for them?
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Tomasi writes Hornsby and Halo.
Okay, interesting.
Rockefellers. I read Rockefellers. That's the 4th Ghost Machine imprint.
I love that title.
The
Incredible title.
The title itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Incredible title.
The Rockefellers is, I think that's Tynion. Anyway, the point being is Hyde Street is like the Twilight Zone.
Okay, interesting.
That they're, between the fabric of space and our minds, there is Hyde Street, which is kind of where you go, and then these like entities torture you, and then they steal your soul. If you're a bad person, essentially.
Sure.
If you're a bad person, you end like you're running from the street, down the street from the cops, and you just killed somebody, and you turn in an alleyway, and suddenly you're in the alleyway on Hyde Street, and all these entities are competing on a game board for your soul. And they all have different gimmicks and wants and desires. And they used to be souls, like real people that made the wrong decisions and were bound to this game in a way.
Sounds a little Hellraiser in some ways.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Hellraiser, but yeah. Yeah.
Sounds cool. I'll check them out.
Yeah, Hyde Street, like the main character, there's like Mr. X-Ray, and then he's like a marketing guy.
Cool.
There's a little Boy Scout that gets a merit badge every different way he kills you. Like, all the different, and it gives them like a magical merit badge for like evisceration or whatever.
Jesus.
And this one was the backstory on Miss Goodbody,
Okay.
and this ties in with a Hyde Street one shot that got released a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago. It Goodbody deals with body dysmorphia and like eating disorders and that sort of thing.
Interesting.
And so, you know, like, oh, you're not happy about the color of your eyes, she plucks out your eyes. Like things like that.
How many issues does this have? Out of curiosity.
Hyde Street is 5 issues plus one shot.
Interesting. All right, very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I gotta move fast on this one. X-Men 14. Loving the art. I think now these series, now that the crossover events are over, it can move full speed towards whatever they want, the stories they want to tell. So I think both Uncanny X-Men and X-Men are firing on all cylinders, or at least revving up towards that. So, X-Men 14 is good. Nothing to write home about, but it is good.
I'm reading that one on the app, so I'm a couple issues behind on that. But
fair.
It's fun.
West Coast Avengers number 6 has a very interesting premise. Are you familiar? Are you reading this one?
I had reading that one in the app too, so I've only read the first.
How many
issue?
Oh, okay.
The first one.
The first issue, they do introduce that Ultron is a member of the team.
I saw
the question is how and why and what and whatever. So I don't want to spoil it for you. Just know that, like, in this issue, like, the main Avengers team guest stars because they're like, can we trust Ultron being on the team? And so
a guy who is historically unchill.
You're right. So it is what it is. Batgirl number 6. Amazing series. It works really well if you're a fan of Birds of Prey. That Cassandra Cain is in 2 titles. This one specifically ends the arc dealing with her and Lady Shiva, the mother-daughter relationship. It's been really good. What can I say?
Nice. Did you read Absolute Superman number 6?
Holy shit, we didn't talk about it.
Let's do it. Speed talk. Go.
All right, we gotta talk quick about this. This episode, we had technical difficulties at the top of the show. But, you're right. Absolute Superman number 6. I loved it. What can I?
Good as hell.
You tell me something about it, and I'll chime in, and then we'll move on.
Just like, man, I feel like we need to do a whole podcast on the like fascinating parallel thought of the new Ultimate Universe and the Absolute Universe. Because
fine, give me more work to do. All right,
we can literally just hit record one day and just start blabbing. But it's just so interesting to me how both of them are rooted in this idea of, and this feels, not to bum everybody out in the last 20 minutes of this episode, but it just feels very relevant that both universes are predicated on the idea of everything is wrong. This is a universe where nothing went the way it was supposed to, and everyone was denied the thing that they should have had or deserved. And now that story is brought to the Kents. And it is like beautifully tragic that in all these Absolute books, I've said this before, but it really hit when I was reading this again. When this was first announced, I was like, oh, it's going to be edgy DC. This is dumb. And no, it's that these characters are still fundamentally who they are, but they live in a world that is much sadder and much more cynical, even though the characters still maintain their essential goodness. And I think that really applies to the Kents, where they are still like these pure-hearted people who are doing their best, but now they live in a world that is 10 times worse than the one that they originally existed in. Yeah, man, it was just like really, I'm like getting emotional thinking about it in a way that I didn't when I initially read it. We're just reflecting on the fact that they live in this horrible, dystopian, corporatized nightmare version of America. In other words, America now. And they still do their best to help this poor kid who is not a cute little baby. He's like a teenager who doesn't speak the same language as them. He's speaking a weird alien language. He explodes out of the sky, and they're still like, it is our moral duty to help this kid because he doesn't have anywhere else to go or anywhere else to protect him. And they do it, and they are punished for it by these evil forces that control our world. Ah, it's a good fucking comic.
Yeah,
It's a really good comic.
it's really good. The way I describe it is that the absolute DC universe, whereas the regular DC universe is built on like Superman being the thread, the literal metaphysical thread of the universe is built on Superman, which is
Right.
good, which is hope, which is good people win in the end.
Mm-hmm.
DC Comics has always been a lighter version of us. Although there are evil people, bad things happen, whatever, you have hope that good will triumph. It's been proven time and time again in DC Comics that good will triumph because of that metaphysical thread that underlines it.
Right.
This is a universe where the thread is Darkseid. And the question is, if you have Superman as a character, but not as the thread of the universe, the thread is Darkseid. And I'm saying thread
The
of the
thread
universe.
is, and the thread is, I would even say, is anti-life. A concept that is demoralizing and destroys hope and free will, you know, beyond even just Darkseid. It is, I mean, they haven't confirmed that, but to me, it's like, oh, this is a universe built on anti-life.
I think that it's my metaphysical thought process of this whole thing is that like our universe is that. And so it doesn't mean that good people don't triumph in the real world. And it doesn't mean that in absolute DC that good people won't triumph. It's that there is way more of a struggle, and show me proof that good people win in the end. Like it is the cynical nature, you're right. Just like in real life and the absolute DC universe, they're very similar universes where let's just take out this predestination, preordained stuff that good or evil will win. There is struggle. Prove to me that good guys can win. And that's kind of the biggest thing. I think it's very sad to think in that respect, but I think it's true. I think that like good people persevere in the absolute DC universe, like Ma and Pa Kent, and because they themselves as people are good people no matter what the underlying nature of the universe is. It's not taking a boys route where it's like bad people will win, bad people powers like corrupt absolutely. It's not that, but this one you have what good is hope if you don't have to struggle for it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
the people at home can't see me, but I'm taking that in. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
So yeah. I just think let's not get on the tangent on that, but like that's absolute DC, and it's working great as a storytelling device. It's working great, and they're all telling different stories.
I know comics have hit when the kids at my school are asking me if I have it. You know, they were asking for The Last Ronin. Now they're asking me, do I have the Absolute books? So, yeah, I know it's a success if the teens of Gen Z is going up to me and being like, "Hey, Mr. Long, you got these comics or what?"
Yeah, we'll talk later about that. I think comics for education is a super important thing. Real quick, I got to get through everything. JSA number 6. I mean, I don't know. I think this is one of those books like it might have been better to read the first trade and then hopped on weekly. I can't recommend the first couple issues of the series as a weekly title or a monthly title, but like read the first trade and then hop in because there are some like threads going on and it is good, but it only works for me because it's monthly, like, or because I read monthly, you know. It could be a good trade book, but
I haven't read any of this. I mean, maybe I don't know. Should I check it out? You think, or
read it in trade where you can binge it? Because right now I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I don't know. It's I don't know what I can say. Psylocke number 6 though. That's a really good book. Psylocke number 6 is really good, written by Alyssa Wong. The art is amazing. This villain that was in issue 5 was kind of creepy. His name was the Taxonomist, and he wants to make people into curations, and
Oh, okay.
he'll pin them like you would pin butterflies, and
That kind of taxonomy. Got it.
he that's what he does, and he creates like a museum exhibit for Psylocke. This issue is a lot of Psylocke and magic, Magik magic, and Psylocke and Grey Crow are like my two favorite mutant couple. Like they're my favorite mutant couple.
The best.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah.
I'm also reading that one in the app, so I've only read the first 2 issues, but
Okay.
it's quite good what I've read so far.
Okay. Damn, I'm gonna get through this real quick. Spider-Boy 18. I love Spider-Boy. I love Spider-Boy. I love this. They're introducing Mr. Negative, and then Peter Parker is working with Bailey Briggs. I love Spider-Boy. I'm not gonna take any shit talking about Spider-Boy. I love him.
I have no opinion on Spider.
Cool. Helverine number 5. Dakin fights Mephisto.
Cool.
He has the spirit of like Bagra Ghul or whatever his name is. It is what it is. This comic, it says parental advisory or something like that, explicit advisory or something like that. But some of the other books in Marvel Comics have a red band thing, and I don't know why they're doing one for one and one for the other, because this book has some body horror that is gross. So why is this not red band? I don't know, but this series is horrific in a good way. It's good, but it is.
Maybe they didn't think people would shell out for the extra like $1 you got to pay for the red band ones.
I don't know. It's Helverine, like that. Like that title alone would make people want to read it, but
you know. I don't know.
All right, Secret 6 number 2, written by Nicole Maines. I love Nicole Maines. I don't know whether this lives up to Gail Simone's Secret 6. It's a hard act to follow. It is what it is. I have faith that Nicole Maines will write something, like have it pick up. But right now, it is what it is. Nicole Maines just won a GLAAD award, so I don't think Nicole Maines follows the show, but at some point Nicole's going to see this. Congrats on the GLAAD award.
She's gonna see this at some point?
I don't know. we can hope. You know,
I've liked the few comics of her that I've by her that I've read, so I'm excited to check this out at some point.
It was the Suicide Squad.
I read that. I thought it was pretty. I read that and I thought it was pretty good. And there was something else by her I read.
And last but not least, Resurrection Man Quantum Karma, issue number 1. I barely know anything about Mitch Shelley. So this book kind of does a thing where, I don't know, it may be different continuity. I'm not quite sure. It's a Black Label book. And it may be a different continuity than like Mitch Shelley, Resurrection Man appearing in other series.
Mm-hmm.
But
I really got to read it. I didn't get a chance to read it. I got to check it out because I'm on the Rom V train in a big way. And I got to check that out.
It's a good first issue, but it also brings up a lot of questions. So if I get frustrated a little bit about that, but it is what it is. I'll read the next one for sure. It is good.
Exciting.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. I think those are all the comics that we read this week.
Yeah, I think we did it.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian.
We talked about every comic.
We talked about a lot of comics. I'll tell you that. Not to mention your indie pulls. That if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be hearing about some of these comics.
Oh yeah, well, thank you.
So
I appreciate that.
I mean, I think
have you read The Moon Is Following Us by Daniel Warren Johnson?
I've been hearing good things, but I don't. I really want to read the Lucky Devils because issue 3 came out this week.
I need to read that.
Yeah, I want to read that because I think it looks cool. But again,
I'm reading this one very indie book. It's called DC Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah,
I literally picked it up because my son wanted it, and I'm like, this is gonna end with Sonic punching Darkseid and eating a chili dog, and I'm gonna get weirdly mad about it. I just know.
This also ties in with the idea that I don't like the idea that Darkseid is a multiversal constant. I don't agree with it. It doesn't make any sense.
This is where I get real like real like religious zealot here, but I'm like, if it wasn't written by Jack Kirby, it's questionable to me how seriously I should take it.
Look, it
If
just
it wasn't a concept that Kirby came up with related to these characters, I don't know if I care about it.
I believe that the multiverse in both Marvel and DC doesn't link to all its universes. I think
Sure.
that there is a multiverse of multiverses, and that's just it. Just makes
You're
the
talking
most
about the you're talking about the Omniverse, as I believe Mark Gruenwald's called
cool. Yes, but that's what I'm talking about because the dark side of Tiny Titans is not the same dark side. It just doesn't. And the dark side of Smallville is not the same dark side. Like,
No, he should not be. He was in a guy who looked like Dick Cheney's brain, if I remember correctly. Wasn't that the whole deal with that dark side?
the guy who looked like the guy who looked like John McCain was Slade.
Oh, that's right. He looked like John McCain. You're right. You're right.
It's the guy. It was Slade. That was
Yeah.
Deathstroke.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right.
But
He did
John
look like John
McCain.
McCain.
Anyway.
So weird.
Yeah, so weird. Thank you, Brian, so much for coming on the show and talking
Thank
comics.
you. Always fun to talk comics. I love them. They're great.
You love comics. You do a great job, and you also educate the young minds in
I'm trying my best,
comics.
man.
So, thank you for your service. You know.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
I don't mean that ironically. I also.
I know you don't. I know you don't.
It's a little tongue in cheek, but it's also like thank you. You know.
Oh yeah. Thanks,
Brian, before we get going, where can we find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Oh boy. You can just follow me on Blue Sky. I'm on Blue Sky.
Okay.
At Captain Comic Rex. I'm pretty sure that's my username on Blue Sky.
It should be. Come on.
Yeah, it
Consistency.
is. Yeah, it's Captain Comic Rex. I don't share things too often. When I get around to doing YouTube videos again, they're gonna get posted on there. I have some YouTube videos about education and comics. So if you are a teacher or you know a teacher and you'd like to hear some of my thoughts about lessons that you can do with comic books, you can check some out there, and I'll hopefully be posting more in the summer when I have some free time again.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Are you going to any Comic Cons coming up?
I'm definitely going to Anime NYC, which is not a Comic Con.
Yeah.
And I'll be going to New York Comic Con this year.
Okay.
Yeah, if the economy isn't in shambles, I'll be doing both of those things.
If the economy is not in shambles, I do have plans to go to New York Comic Con. I'll be at Chicago next week, but New York Comic Con, I want to go for the first time this year. So hopefully we'll be able to meet in person.
I would love that so much.
But I will say, let's meet in a dark alleyway first. Don't tell anyone that you're meeting me. And then, you know.
I got news for you, Dimithri. There are no alleys in New York City. That is a myth perpetrated by film and comics.
But tell me there's a phone booth so I can change into my alter ego.
I got really bad news for you, Dimithri, about phone booths.
It reminds me of how they had to update Dial H for Hero. Because there's no rotary dials anymore.
Does he just TikTok now? Does he just Skibbity?
T for TikTok.
Dial S for Skibbity. That's what it is.
For anyone out there who wants to follow me personally, you can follow me at This Is Dimithri. Instagram is probably the best go-to, or you can follow me on Facebook. But that's mostly for my old lady fans. Because it's weird. I have old lady fans that follow me from my time on the game show.
Shout out to them.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being a fan. They follow me on Facebook, so that's nice too. But if you want to follow the show, the Keeg, you can follow the Keeg on TikTok and Instagram at the Keeg Show. We're also on Blue Sky and Threads and all that stuff at the Keeg Show / the Keeg Show. Pretty much everywhere on social media. We are there, including patreon.com / the Keeg Show. Now, this is Comic Talk, normally every Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about new comic books that came out that week. But we have other shows that we do. We're doing a Daredevil Born Again after show. We got the Keeg Talks and the Keeg Chats. They all have different things. Follow us on social media and keep up with all of that. Now, if you want to find any of the comics that we talked about, comicshoplocator.com. Find a comic shop near you. Support your local comic shops. That's the only way we're going to create a comic book community, keep the comic community going is by supporting local shops and, you know, spreading the word that way. Also, support your local public libraries. That's also a really big thing. If you're watching us live, you're watching us on youtube.com/The Keeg Show or twitch.tv/The Keeg Show, or you listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, SoundCloud. We're on all of those. So wherever you are, like, comment, subscribe, follow, write a review, give us a thumbs up, whatever. Let us know you're out there, because it's really nice to hear that people are like listening to the show or watching the show or whatever. So do what you can. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Support your local comic shops, support your local public libraries. Go check out any of these books. Thank you, Brian, so much for coming on the show. And
yeah, thank you for having me. Thanks for doing a Saturday show.
Yeah, of course. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been Comic Talk for the week of April 5th, 2025. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
King, and we got geek news.